You've clicked this video because deep down you're tired. Tired of suffering in silence, tired of waiting for life to get easier, and maybe most of all, tired of pretending everything's okay when it isn't. The title said it plainly: 7 brutal truths you need to hear. And believe me, they are. They're not sugar-coated, not designed to make you feel better for 5 minutes. They're built to wake something up inside you that's been dormant far too long. These truths won't just challenge what you believe, they'll challenge how you live. Because when you stop expecting life to be fair, stop waiting for someone to save you, and start taking ownership of your pain, everything changes. This isn't a motivational video. It's a mirror, one you might want to come back to, not once but many times, especially when life knocks you flat. So watch it more than once, practice the insights daily, and if one of these truths hits you hard, share it with someone who needs it too. And before we begin, do yourself a favor, subscribe so you don't miss what could be the reminder that saves your week. And in the comments, drop a simple truth hit me the hardest. You don't need to overthink it, just say it. Let's begin. 1. No one is coming to save you. A friend of mine, let's call him Mike, once told me that life had to get better eventually. Things will turn around, he said. I've worked too hard, been too loyal, stayed too long for it not to. He believed, deep in his bones, that someone would step in. His boss would recognize his effort. His ex would realize what she lost. Maybe even the universe itself would balance the scales and finally reward him for being the good guy. But none of that happened. The phone never rang, the email never came, no apology showed up, no opportunity landed at his feet. Nothing changed, because no one came, and for a while that destroyed him. But eventually he stopped waiting, and that's when everything actually started to shift. You see, Mike's story isn't some isolated heartbreak. It's a quiet truth that too many of us live every single day. We don't say it out loud, but we're waiting. Waiting for someone to validate our struggle. Waiting for someone to notice how much we've endured. Waiting for a sign, a lifeline, a miracle. But the longer we wait, the heavier it all feels. Because deep down, we know the truth. No one is coming. Not because the world is cruel, but because it's not designed to rescue us. It's not built to find us when we go missing in our own minds. The sooner we accept this, the sooner we stop suffering for the wrong reasons. Modern Stoicism teaches that we should not expect outcomes to match our hopes. Epictetus, a slave who later became a revered philosopher, put it plainly: don't expect events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do. This isn't about giving up, it's about giving up waiting. Because waiting becomes a trap, a beautifully disguised one, that steals your agency. When you expect someone else to pull you from the chaos, you forget that your hands still work. You forget that there's wood, rope, and time enough to build your own raft if you just stop staring at the sky. Think about how often people say, when things calm down, I'll change. But what if the calm never comes? What if the person you're hoping returns never will? What if the recognition, the apology, the rescue simply isn't part of your story? Will you still wait, or will you choose to begin anyway? It's not that you don't deserve help. Maybe you do. But the world doesn't owe you that help, and no amount of pain guarantees someone will relieve it for you. This is the essence of emotional self-control. You take ownership not just of your actions, but of your expectations. You begin to redirect energy away from hoping and toward building. You focus less on who should have stayed and more on what still needs to be done. This is how you take back your freedom, not by shouting for it, but by acting on it, even when you're still hurting. Especially when you're still hurting. It might sound harsh, but it's freeing. The moment you stop waiting is the moment you stop being passive. You stop being a background character in your own life and start being the one who moves the story forward. This is the foundation of self-discipline. Doing what must be done, even when no one is watching, even when your heart is still broken. The idea that someone else will fix things for you is seductive, but false. The truth is simpler and far more powerful. You are capable. You always were. No one is coming, and in that silence you gain the space to act, to move, to rise. That's not a tragedy. That's a turning point. And it starts the moment you decide to build your escape instead of waiting for someone to throw down a rope. So listen to this part again if you need to. Write it down. Let it live in your bones, because this truth, if you really take it in, can end a lifetime of suffering and start a lifetime of strength. 2. Life is suffering. Accept it. Picture a boxer stepping into the ring with one dangerous belief, that if he trains hard enough, he won't get hit. So when the first punch lands, he's shocked. The second feels unfair. By the third, he's unraveling, not from the physical pain, but from the betrayal of his own expectations. He thought effort would shield him from blows. But that's not how boxing works. It's also not how life works. The ones who endure aren't the ones who avoid pain. They're the ones who expect it, absorb it, and keep moving anyway. Life is suffering, and accepting that truth is one of the most freeing things you'll ever do. Because once you stop resisting the unavoidable, you start using it to become unshakable. There's this lie we're sold early, that if we're good enough, kind enough, smart enough, then somehow the universe will protect us from pain. So when tragedy strikes, when people betray us, when life feels brutal and unfair, we don't just suffer from what happened. We suffer more because we believe it wasn't supposed to happen at all. That double suffering, pain layered with shock, breaks us faster than pain alone ever could. But what if you expected hardship? Not in a negative, paranoid way, but as a default setting of the human condition. What if, like the seasoned fighter, you stepped into each day knowing there would be an impact and chose to face it anyway? The Stoics knew this truth intimately. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and father who buried his own children, wrote, "If the pain is bearable, endure it. If it's not, it will soon end." He didn't say that from a place of comfort. He said it from experience, from grief, from war, from carrying a crown that often felt more like a burden than a blessing. He understood that suffering is not a sign of failure. It is the landscape we all walk through, some limping, some sprinting, but no one escapes untouched. Pain isn't punishment, it's a process. And more often than not, it's preparation. If you've ever felt like you were being targeted by life, like hardship seemed to find you more than others, it's probably not true. It's just that you feel it more when you think it shouldn't be there. But once you accept that suffering is part of life, not an interruption from it, something begins to change. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" You stop believing life is broken just because it's hard. And instead, you begin to see each painful moment as a test, not of your worth, but of your will. Every disappointment becomes data. Every scar becomes a strategy. Every fall becomes fuel. We live in a culture obsessed with comfort, with fixing every inconvenience, numbing every emotion, and chasing happiness like it's a right. But real growth doesn't live there. Strength doesn't grow in air conditioning. It grows in the heat, in the rejection, in the silence, in the days when nothing goes right but you show up anyway. Emotional self-control, self-discipline, resilience, all of it comes from standing in discomfort without needing it to disappear. The suffering isn't always optional. But what you do with it, that's where all your power lives. So the next time life punches you, and it will, don't act surprised. Don't treat it like a malfunction. Treat it like a rep at the gym. Let it build you. Let it shape you. Let it forge you into someone who no longer flinches when the storm rolls in. Because life is not a clean, soft, edited journey. It's a raw, bruising, beautiful fight. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you stop getting knocked out by things that were never meant to be easy. This isn't about embracing suffering for its own sake. It's about seeing it for what it is, the entrance fee for becoming who you're meant to be. Accept it, and you'll finally stop suffering over the fact that you're suffering. That's how you get free. 3. You are a slave to your emotions. Let me ask you something. Ever ruined an entire day because of a 2-sentence text message? Maybe it wasn't even harsh, just vague, but it spun around in your mind for hours, maybe days. You lost sleep over it. Or maybe it was something someone said offhand, a comment, a joke, a passive glance, and suddenly you were in your head, spiraling, rehashing, overthinking, reacting. You told yourself, "I can't help it, I just felt that way." But here's the question most of us avoid. If you can't help how you feel, and you always obey how you feel, then who's in charge of your life? Because it's probably not you. The hard truth is that you're not weak for feeling emotions like anger, jealousy, fear, or shame. Those are part of being human. But if you surrender to them the moment they show up, if they run your mouth, dictate your decisions, shape your self-worth, then you're not leading your life. You're reacting to it like a puppet on strings. The world pulls and you jerk. And that's not freedom. That's slavery with prettier language. The problem is, modern culture teaches us to worship emotions. It tells us that being authentic means acting on whatever we feel in the moment. That being real means yelling when we're mad, ghosting when we're insecure, and clinging when we're afraid. But that's not authenticity. That's emotional chaos. That's impulsive living dressed up as self-expression. And if you keep doing that, you'll destroy relationships you value, sabotage goals you care about, and keep circling the same pain year after year. Emotions are meant to be signals, not dictators. They show you where something hurts, where something matters. But when you hand them the steering wheel, you crash. Not every fear is worth listening to. Not every insult needs a reaction. Not every spark of anger deserves gasoline. Seneca, one of the sharpest voices in Stoic philosophy, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He was right. So many of our worst moments never even happened, at least not outside our minds. We create stories around pain and let those stories rule us. We feel disrespected, so we lash out. We feel insecure, so we chase validation. We feel lonely, so we crawl back to the very people who broke us. It feels like instinct, but it's actually habit. And like all habits, it can be broken if you're willing to do the hard thing, which is pause, observe, breathe, then choose. Emotional self-control doesn't mean you don't feel deeply. It means you learn to feel without obeying. You don't have to be cold or robotic. You just need to stop letting your first impulse be your final decision. It's the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is automatic, impulsive, and raw. Responding is intentional, thoughtful, and grounded. The space between stimulus and action. That's where your power lives. The moment you stop being dragged by your feelings and start recognizing them as temporary visitors, that's when you begin to lead your own life. Self-discipline and inner peace aren't built on denying what you feel. They're built on knowing when to act in spite of what you feel. That's how strong people move, not by suppressing pain, but by rising above it with clarity and conviction. So if you've been living like a slave to your triggers, this is the wake-up call. Emotional freedom isn't some poetic dream. It's a practice, and like any muscle, it grows when tested. The next time your anger flares up, your anxiety takes over, your jealousy whispers lies, stop, breathe, observe it, and remind yourself, emotions are passengers. You're the driver. The wheel has always been in your hands. You just forgot that for a while. But not anymore. Now you choose. And that choice, even if it's quiet, even if it's hard, is what real freedom feels like. 4. The world owes you nothing. Picture a vending machine. You slide in your coins. Maybe it's effort, kindness, patience, or loyalty, and then you press the button. You wait for your reward. Respect, recognition, love, something that feels like a fair return. But nothing drops, so you shake the machine. You press the button again, harder. Nothing. Frustrated, you kick it, feeling cheated. But here's the truth that stings more than the silence. The machine never owed you anything. It was your expectation, not life, that created your disappointment. That's how many of us live, treating life like a transaction, believing that if we check the right boxes, the universe will automatically pay us back. Be nice, be loyal, be generous, and then surely things will work out, right? But life doesn't work that way. It's not a contract. It's not fair. It's not built to recognize your silent suffering or reward your private struggles. Life is an arena, not a ledger. And that realization, while painful, is the beginning of personal power. We grow up internalizing a dangerous story, that being a good person should be enough, that hard work guarantees success, that love given will always be love returned. But these are comforting illusions, not universal truths. Many good people are overlooked, many hard workers are underpaid, many kind souls are taken for granted, not because the world is cruel, but because the world is indifferent. It's not measuring your inputs and adjusting the outcomes accordingly. It just is. So when we cling to the belief that we're owed something, a promotion, a second chance, a thank you, we don't just suffer. We stagnate. We wait for justice that isn't coming, for recognition that may never arrive. And in doing so, we give away the one thing we can control: our response. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who could have demanded anything, once wrote, "Don't waste time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That line carries the full weight of Stoic wisdom. It means we don't do the right thing because we want applause. We do it because that's who we choose to be. We act with integrity, even if the world never notices. We show up with discipline and emotional self-control, even when no one's watching. Because real virtue isn't performative, it's consistent. It holds steady in the silence. And ironically, that's when it becomes the most powerful. If you're still living with the idea that life owes you something, here's the harsh truth. It doesn't. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you build. That's not to say effort doesn't matter. It matters tremendously. But not because the world is keeping score. It matters because your actions shape who you become, regardless of the reward. So instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What now?" That question shifts your focus from blame to building, from hoping to doing. It turns disappointment into direction. When you accept that no one is coming to make it fair, you finally start doing what matters without waiting for permission. You stop measuring your value by what others give back. You stop being controlled by resentment when things don't go your way. And slowly, you reclaim your peace. The kind that comes from knowing that your power has nothing to do with outcomes and everything to do with your choices. So if life hasn't given you what you hoped for, that's not failure. That's the job description. Stop shaking the vending machine. Start building what you need with your own hands. That's not bitterness, it's liberation. It's how you move forward, grounded in reality, unshaken by rejection, and free from the trap of waiting for fairness that may never come. 5. The past has already hurt you. Don't let it keep hurting you. Picture this. Somewhere in your mind, there's a room that never changes. It plays the same moment over and over. The worst conversation, the betrayal, the breakup, the failure you thought you'd outrun. Every time you walk past it, you peek inside. Just for a second, you tell yourself. But seconds become minutes. Minutes turn into hours of quiet replay. And before long, you're not just visiting that room. You're living in it. The truth is, the past already hurt you once. But now you're the one reopening the wound. You say you're processing. You say you're just trying to understand. But what you're actually doing is reliving, not healing. You're letting a memory built on pain hijack your present. You're keeping yourself stuck inside a chapter that should have already ended. We all carry scars, and some of them take time to heal. But there's a difference between honoring your pain and being ruled by it, between learning from what happened and becoming addicted to the replay. And often, we stay in that mental loop not because the past is powerful, but because we've let it become part of our identity. We say things like, "I'm just not the same after what happened," or "I can't trust anyone since that day," or "I've never really healed from that moment." But here's the question that matters. How long do you plan to keep that moment alive? Because the past doesn't keep hurting you on its own. You keep feeding it. You water it with attention. You protect it like it still has authority over you. But pain only has power when it's kept alive. Otherwise, it fades like any other wound that's no longer touched. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." What happened was real. The hurt, the loss, the betrayal. No one is denying that. But what continues to happen? That's entirely yours to own now. The second, third, 20th time that pain resurfaces, it's not life doing that to you. It's you keeping yourself there. You're not wrong for hurting. But the danger comes when you let that hurt become home, when your past becomes the excuse for every wall you build, every risk you avoid, every version of yourself you refuse to grow into. Emotional freedom, which so many crave and so few reach, isn't about forgetting. It's about reframing. Stoicism doesn't tell you to erase the past. It tells you to use it. Not as a cage, but as a compass. The pain you felt should sharpen your wisdom, not cloud your progress. But when you make that pain your entire narrative, you lose sight of what's still possible. You trade your potential for your history. You put chains around your own ankles and convince yourself you're still trapped in something long gone. So here's the hard but healing truth. You were a victim then. But if the past still owns you now, you've become your own captor. The door to that room is wide open. You just keep walking back in. And maybe it's out of habit. maybe out of fear, maybe because the pain is familiar. But familiarity isn't freedom, it's just comfort wrapped in chains. And you deserve better than that. You owe yourself more than that. So close the door. Not because the past didn't matter, but because your future still does. You don't live there anymore. You've got places to go, choices to make, and a version of yourself you haven't met yet. And none of that happens while you're still bleeding for things that already happened. It's time to let the wound close and start building something real with the hands that were once used to wipe away tears. 6. Suffering for someone who left you is self-betrayal. Have you ever find yourself rereading the last conversation you had with them, word for word, as if some hidden meaning might appear this time? You scroll through their old photos trying to decode who they're with now, who they might have chosen over you, or who they might have become without you. You imagine how it could have gone differently if only you had said the right thing, been less emotional, more patient, more something. We all do this at some point. It feels like grief. And for a while, it is. But there comes a moment when it's no longer about loss, it's about loyalty to your own suffering. When someone walks away, the damage is done once. But if you keep reliving it, revisiting it, and basing your identity around it, then you're the one choosing to stay in the ruins. They're gone, and you're the only one still sitting in the wreckage. Here's what makes this truth sting even more. You've been abandoning yourself every single day since they left. You've put more energy into their memory than your own recovery. You've let their absence become the measure of your worth, and their silence become the story you tell yourself about what you deserved. And maybe you thought that meant you loved deeply, that your loyalty meant something. But love without self-respect isn't love. It's dependency. Grieving for someone is human. But suffering endlessly for someone who's no longer choosing you? That's not devotion. That's self-betrayal. And yet we hold on. Not because we still want them back, but because we want the version of ourselves we used to be when they were around. We miss feeling chosen. We miss feeling seen. We miss the illusion that we were whole simply because someone else was there. But they didn't take your wholeness with them. You just haven't reclaimed it yet. That person you were, the one who felt grounded, capable, even loved, is still in you. But right now, you're burying that person under layers of doubt, regret, and stories that begin with, if only. Stoicism doesn't ask you to erase pain or act like it didn't matter. It simply asks you not to let pain become identity. Marcus Aurelius put it with stark beauty. Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. That person made a choice to leave. The question is, when will you make yours? Letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean erasing the past. It means stopping the habit of feeding it more life than it deserves. The relationship already ended. The damage has already happened. What you're doing now, replaying, reliving, waiting, is you dragging yourself through the wreckage again and again. Every time you check their profile, every time you compare yourself to the person you're with now, every time you let the thought of them control your mood, your confidence, your decisions, you're choosing to give them power they no longer earn and never truly owned. This isn't about bitterness. It's about boundaries. It's about choosing to be loyal to your healing, not to your history. You don't miss them. Not really. You miss the version of yourself that didn't feel abandoned. And that version still exists, but only if you choose to return to it. So stop waiting for them to knock on your door. Stop imagining the day they'll realize what they lost. Stop tying your future to someone who isn't looking in your direction. You already know what it's like to be left. Now it's time to find out what it's like to return, not to them, but to yourself. To come back to the person you abandoned when they walked away. That version of you deserves more than your grief. It deserves your full presence. Because the greatest act of strength isn't moving on, it's moving inward. Until you no longer need anyone to prove that you matter. 7. Discipline is more powerful than motivation. Everyone's motivated on January 1st. That's when gyms are packed, planners are filled, and dreams feel shiny again. People post their goals, announce their intentions, and declare that this year will be different. And for a while, it is. But come February, reality returns. The gym is quiet, the notebook's still blank. That big dream? It's on pause again, not because people didn't care, not because they weren't serious, but because motivation, that first spark of excitement, was never built to last. It's temporary. It burns bright, then fades fast. And that's the trap, mistaking that spark for something permanent. But the people who build anything real in life, whether it's a business, a strong body, emotional control, or lasting peace, don't rely on sparks. They build with discipline. Because discipline is what's left when motivation walks out. Motivation is a feeling. It's emotional, chemical, fleeting. You feel pumped after watching an inspiring video or reading the perfect quote. But then comes a bad night's sleep, a rude message, a long workday, and just like that, the spark's gone. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline shows up when you don't want to. It's the quiet contract you make with yourself when no one's watching, no one's applauding, and no one's going to pat you on the back. And that's why it matters more. Because real change isn't built in moments of hype. It's forged in moments of resistance. The day you show up to work on your goals when every part of you wants to quit, that's the day you build a stronger version of yourself. And every time you choose discipline over mood, you're not just getting things done, you're proving that you command your life, not your feelings. In a world obsessed with quick wins and instant gratification, discipline is rebellion. It's the ability to stay on track without applause, to delay comfort for something greater, to act based on principle instead of passion. Stoic thinkers knew this well. Seneca wrote, "We should train our minds to desire only what we are able to achieve by our own efforts." He wasn't glorifying struggle. He was reminding us that power comes from within, from the habits we build and the consistency we commit to. That's the core of emotional self-control. The ability to choose action over impulse, clarity over chaos, and structure over laziness. Discipline isn't just about waking up early or going to the gym. It's about keeping promises to yourself. It's about aligning your actions with your principles, even on the days when you don't feel like it. So if you're waiting to feel ready, stop. You may be waiting forever. The right time is usually the most inconvenient time. The moment where starting feels least appealing is the exact moment where growth begins. Think about how many things you've delayed because you weren't in the mood. Now think about what your life would look like if you acted anyway. That's the fire discipline that builds, steady, enduring, and strong. It doesn't flash like motivation, but it doesn't burn out either. And when life gets hard, when everything around you becomes uncertain, that quiet, steady fire is what keeps you grounded. It's what keeps you moving forward when everyone else is giving up. Motivation may start the journey. It may give you the push you need on day one, but discipline finishes it. Discipline carries you through the middle when things are messy, uncertain, and unglamorous. And if you want true freedom, whether it's financial, emotional, or mental, then you need to master this one thing. Choosing to act not when you feel like it, but because you said you would. Every time you do, you build not just progress, but also trust in yourself. And that trust, that's what changes your life. That's what makes you unstoppable. Because in the end, motivation is a matchstick. Discipline builds the fire pit. And it's that fire that will keep you going long after the spark is gone. Now that you've heard these 7 brutal truths, ask yourself, which one hit hardest? Was it the one that forced you to stop waiting for someone to save you? Or the reminder that motivation fades, but discipline builds everything? Whatever it was, don't let this just be another video you watch and forget. Let it become something you live. These aren't just Stoic lessons. They're tools. They're meant to sharpen how you think, how you act, and how you carry yourself in a world that rarely gives you what you expect. Life is unpredictable. Emotions can take over. People will leave. But your response, your discipline, your emotional control, your clarity, that's yours to shape. If any part of this helped you see things differently, share your story in the comments below. What truth are you facing right now? Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if you found value here, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more practical stoicism, emotional resilience, and mindset mastery. These ideas don't just inspire, they transform when practiced daily. So return to them often. Let them challenge you. And most of all, let them build the version of you that doesn't just survive, but leads.